and welcome to Louisville Late Night. This is Patrick here in Amsterdam, and this evening I'm pleased to have with us Alan St.Pierre, who's president of the NORML Foundation, and NORML is partially sponsoring the Cannabis Cup Festival going on now in Amsterdam. And hey, there's Alan. Here's some plants that are growing nearby Alan.
This is a tulip.
Oh, these are the Holland tulips. So
beautiful Dutch tulips.
This is a festive occasion, Alan, I know that, but we've had some big events going on in the struggle for freedom in the United States in particular. I was wondering if you had any comments now that the elections are over.
Well, unfortunately, you couldn't slip a piece of paper between the two candidates on the issue of the war on drugs and marijuana specifically. We've got one gentleman who could be president who admitted to using marijuana until his mid-30s, or we could have a president who admitted to using drugs like cocaine till his mid-30s. So unfortunately, neither one is likely to change the laws. So when it comes to this particular election, those that want to see the laws change, absolutely, and without a doubt, need to be involved in the political process. So the only way the laws change is when people are involved. So people have to let either Bush or Gore know that in the next 4 years, for the term of their presidency, they need to not make the laws harsher. They need to make the laws more sane.
And how about initiatives like in Alaska? Now, marijuana can be used as medicine in Alaska, but they just defeated the use of marijuana. Can you tell us what happened there?
Sure. In Alaska, this past November election, individuals in Alaska voted 60-40, which isn't a terrible loss, but it's 60-40 for what was basically a marijuana legalization initiative. And the three reasons that the experts in Alaska said that it wouldn't succeed or did not succeed is because of the fact that it would have allowed 18-year-olds to use it, that there would have been immediate amnesty for those in jail, and probably most difficult, reparations committees set up. And those are the three things that our opponents attacked it. We think that if it was a very more streamlined bill, it's quite likely that the law would pass with flying colors. So in 2002, voters in Alaska will likely, Patrick, get to vote on that again.
Oh, really?
Pass it, I would assume.
So that's good news. And how can people become more involved in NORML, Alan? How do people get in touch with NORML?
Well, the easiest way is through a toll-free number, which is 888-67-NORML, N-O-R-M-L. And people can reach us most easily on the web at www.norml.org. Those are the two easiest ways. Otherwise, we have 70 chapters around the country, a number of them in the Ohio area, and so individuals should certainly be involved. We don't currently have a chapter in Kentucky, though it's the state that produces the most amount of marijuana in the United States, and absolutely, positively, the bluegrass state needs to be NORML, just like this plant. We need to have this as a taxed, regulated commodity in the southeast United States.
Well, we'll have to see what we can do.
Well, you certainly do a lot, and individuals all around the general Cincinnati and Kentucky area need to be very thankful that there's a great medium like this to see not only what goes on here in Netherlands, but what potentially can go on in the United States.
All right. Thanks a lot, Alan. That's great.
Yeah, some other great stuff. Let's go check out the
But at this juncture, in the movement of unions, they have been very inadequate in this area. Thankfully, in the last 4 or 5 years, as negotiations for contracts have come up again that were originally done in the 1980s, they are starting to talk about this because they realize they're losing some of the very best people to drug testing. And one last point. A lot of people argue, and I had the pleasure of debating the former head of the DEA a few weeks ago up in Maine, who is himself along with the former head of NIDA, Robert DuPont, in the drug testing consulting business. He is quick to tell audiences that drug testing is really, and this is a great point that Barbara was bringing up, it is really the same as an airline security check. And of course, since I agree with Barbara that an airline security check is very close to a name regarding security, I wanted to bring this up with him. He and I, this former head of the DEA, Peter Benzinger, we fly quite often. And so he likes to make the analogy that drug testing is very much like a airline security checkpoint. I have two major problems with that. One is, yeah, if you go into a plane and go up into the, high altitude, the idea that somehow you're going into a pressurized cabin, of course nobody would want to have a bomb or incendiary device on there. That's a given, we can all accept that. But the other problem is that when you walk through that metal detector, it is detecting the metal on you, not the metal you might have had on you a month ago or 2 months ago, which is in essence all drug testing does. It does not measure for impairment, it only measures for past use. We have a couple moments. I'd like to just open up a couple of questions before we go to our next panel. If anybody had any questions for Barbara or about NORML's general drug testing policies and what we do, this is the time to do it. What we're going to get right here.
Hi. This is awesome. I heard it all over that. There we go. I am. Mr. Rossman.
Well, let's ask the question.
Go to that question.
Hey, how about you?
There might be employees who might be selling drugs or doing drugs on the property, which might lead to a confiscation of the business under the asset forfeiture laws. Some of them might be doing this just to protect themselves.
I'm asking Alan for backup. Could a business be confiscated if employees on it were?
Well, there are some states that have passed laws that make it so that employees and even landlords are somewhat responsible for both their employees' actions and their tenants' actions. And so I think Ms. Wells' question is such that, and actually this comes up a lot when I talk to folks who own a business. What if you own, let's say, a bread delivery service, and you have a person go out and deliver bread that day, and for whatever reason, of no fault of their own, somebody backs into their truck? Well, they're going to have to take a drug test. And what if it actually got to a compensation hearing or some deliberative body like a jury? And in the end, the fulcrum, what the whole thing turned on was whether or not the truck driver had gone through a drug test or not. That might turn a little bit on liability, and much could be the same could be said for forfeiture. I don't know that an employer would lose their business for it, but the pressure, the inherent pressure to do so is such that it makes it so that people the employers have drug testing where they would not otherwise.
I heard you about a week ago on WBAI talking about women's rights. I was wondering if that might have anything to do with this drug testing, because you were so articulate and interesting on that about women and how there's discrimination against women. I wonder if that might have any bearing, any remote connection between that and this.
Well, insofar as women are also employees, and women and minorities are overrepresented in the low-wage part of the workforce. Not that drug testing doesn't go throughout it. I don't know if there's any. I wonder if anybody else here has thought about that. Whether there's any special, angle for women in drug testing. The cases I have heard about, I mean, a lot of the complaints of the humiliation of the drug testing have come from women who find the protocol of, say, having to undress and pee in front of somebody, just really, humiliating, which I think is what it's meant to be. But other than that, I don't know, does anybody else have
Reminds me of strip searches, how women are humiliated by strip searches.
Well, I would add that I've talked to probably dozens of women over the years who have, in the course of getting into an argument with their male manager, and in some cases over something as blatant as sex discrimination, that when